for souls, transforming worlds to a better wonder to behold. No poverty, zero hunger for the elderly or younger. Good health and well-being, good education, empowering women to become sensation. Clean water, sanitation is a right of every nation. Economic growth inclusive and sustained through industry, innovation, and purely dedication. Yeah, infrastructure be gained. Reduce inequality for sure. Make human settlements secure. Take urgent actions to combat climate change. Conserve life below water and land. Ensure we do not estrange. Justice for all, a peaceful and empathetic nations. Let us all partner to achieve these goals and provide much needed salvation. Each one teach 10, no compensation. Each one teach 10, no compensation.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining. A very good morning, good evening, namaste, hola, bonjour, kerimate, terve, and marapan. This is Namya Joshi, your host for the day. Welcome to episode 110 of the podcast Each One Teach 10, an amazing world of STEM, an inspiring venture where we'll be discussing that STEM is a part of every day for every kid. We all will learn together how to build a STEM culture. Today, I am truly honored to be in conversation with the powerhouse of education leadership, Ms. Neeti Bhalla Saini, principal of Mayo College Girls' School. With 28 plus years in education, she's a pioneer in IB and DBSE integration, a mentor for schools navigating with NEP, the new education policy, and most importantly, a fierce advocate for girl led learning and innovation. Thank you so much, Ms. Neeti, for joining us today. So, how are you doing today?
Thank you so much, Namya. Very power led introduction, but also I love the confidence that you started the entire podcast. I'm doing really well. I'm not too sure I'm as confident as you would be in taking this forward, but I'm going to try and give it a shot. I will. Like I say, that I'm an advocate for girls' education, and you're one of those examples.
Oh, thank you so much, ma'am. Before we start, how's the weather like there today where you are right now?
I'm in Ajmer. I'm in my office. It's pleasant. It's about 42 degrees, just like
Mm,
what you would have in Delhi NCR. But yeah, it's pretty hot. But
yeah.
I believe you're in a better weather, in a better place.
Yes, I'm right now in Himachal Pradesh, so a little cooler than Ludhiana. So I'm happy.
Lucky you.
Yep, thank you, ma'am. All right, let's get started with today's first question. You've spent nearly 3 decades shaping minds and systems. How has your education philosophy evolved over time? And what's one belief that stayed constant no matter what?
Um, you know, for me, when I look back at my educational philosophy and how it was when I was very young, I used to always say I want to be a teacher, and that on a lighter note, it was because my father was a teacher, and I was so enamored by teachers around, and I used to think that all that teachers' life is the best life because all that they do is they give you homework and they go home and enjoy, while we children have to do the work in the evening, sit for hours and do that work. But when I was very young and when I started teaching, something which I thought and which I will owe it to my teacher who taught me English when I was in grade 9th and 10th, was that teaching happens in the classroom and teaching happens outside the classroom, which was not a notion back in the days when you say 3 decades. So you can calculate my age, but before that, you go back nearly 4 decades ago when I was in school, 3.5, 4 decades ago. And so it wasn't a notion then. All that teaching happened was by the teacher and in the classroom. But this one English teacher, Mr. Dar, was a teacher who took us outside. He made Julius Caesar live for us. He made us speak to Hemingway. And that's how teaching was. So that was my first initial stages of learning, what hands-on learning was, what experiential based learning was. I didn't know those terms. But when I became a teacher, and a very young teacher, I would always want to, when I was teaching science, I would always want my students to go outside and explore. I would want them to go to the science lab. So I think that philosophy has always remained with me. And then when I came into the IB world and started understanding the IB primary years, middle years, diploma programs, all the three programs, I realized that when you are teaching, it's important to make sure that it is student centric. So go back and go down into saying, what do the students know, how do they want to learn, and then plan your teaching around that. And in a very informal way, I think my English teacher taught that when he took us out to learn poetry, or when he made us enact Anthony and Mark Antony, and when he made us enact roles of Brutus in this long speeches, we memorized them, and they were out of passion, and we felt that we were those characters standing on the pulpit and delivering those speeches. So that's one core and one belief which has always stayed with me, that teaching has to be inquiry based, it has to be experiential. The students who are the learners have to be involved in the learning process. It's not I as a teacher who only plans, but involve them, know what they want to know what do they already know, and then base your learning. And that's the core of learning today. More than teaching, I always like to use the word learning for the learners.
Absolutely, that is really inspiration that your journey in education has been deeply rooted in a lifelong passion for teaching, inspired by your own father, who was a teacher himself as well. And from the beginning, you've always believed that teacher's life, is one of the most fulfilling paths. And this belief has remained,
Yeah.
helping you along the 3 decade long career, like you said. And I really like the way you talked about the transformative moment that came when your English teacher, took you out to the garden. And that is what made you understand that teaching is not confined to the four walls of a classroom. Like you witnessed bringing Shakespeare's Julius Caesar to life by teaching it outside in a garden. And you're acting like the characters of this play. And that simple yet powerful experience opened your mind and eyes to the power of hands-on experiential, like you said, student-centered learning. And over the years, you've been able to embrace that approach, not only within yourself, but also helping other teachers around you as well. And I believe that exactly what helps teachers as well as students to have a more engaging and personalized learning experience in the classroom and beyond, of course. Thank you so much for sharing that. And this brings me to something very personal, like your schooling experience. So you studied at the Doon School, and now you lead one of the country's most iconic girls' school, the Mayo College. So how has your own school journey influenced your leadership style today, especially when it comes to helping girls build confidence, voice, and agency?
Thank you. That's, yeah, indeed a very, very personal question for me, because when I was in Doon School, people know that it's an all boys school. Girls don't go to that school. But because my father was a teacher there, and that's how I was part of that education system. In my batch of about, I think, uh, 90 plus boys, we were two girls in our class. Some things that the school taught us, and it just came back to me when I became the principal at Mayo College Girls School, was that the kind of discipline that a boarding school instills in individuals, the routine, the schedule, and the sense of discipline, that was very strong. And it's a core of any of these boarding schools or the legacy schools. That's one thing. The other big thing that was instilled in a school at Doon, were for me personally, and for I think all the students there, is that sense of belongingness to that place. And thirdly, very important, is the fierce need to excel at what you do, irrespective of what you are challenged with. And I think, in short, we call it being resilient, or having the adversity quotient, the other dimension. Instead of, along with your IQ and EQ, you have your adversity quotient, which a lot of us often miss out on. Um, and and I've spent my life as a teacher in day schools, day come boarding schools. And I don't want to say that they're not good. They're great institutions where I was. But I think in a day school, when a child goes back home in the evening, that sense of continuity in discipline, that sense of continuity in perseverance, and in kind of driving and striving to get something, diminishes a little and comes to a pause till they come back to the school the next day. And that's how I differentiate a boarding school versus a day school. That in a day school, you will have a little pause, but in a boarding school, it just continues hours 24/7, to the time that the children are there in the school, always, all the time. They're always fighting, and fighting, not fighting in the sense that they are always striving to do better. They're always striving to make a space for themselves. And I think that one attribute I learned as a student, and as an educator, I tried instilling in the institutions that I was, to strive for excellence, to strive for betterment each and every day. And I think when I joined Mayo College Girls School, everything that I grew up and I believed in just came back naturally again to me. Being on campus, it's a 24/7 job. It's your home. It's whatever the size of campus is your home. I can be at any part of the campus and it's my home. It's not one 3,000 square feet or 2,000 square feet house that's my home, but the whole campus is my home, a 30, 40, 50 acre campus. So that's something that, and that's not just for me as an educator, but I think all students believe in that. I see so many alumni who come back to the school, and they go to corners and nooks and corners, and they kind of sit there and talk to their friends and buddies after passing out 20 years from here. 20 years later, they come back and they sit in those corners because they've had those memories and they've built memories. So a boarding school is that aspect. And it is very important in today's time that where we are, especially in a girls' school, in an all girls school, uh, we know that girls tend to do better in a lot of aspects because there are lesser distractions for them and they're more focused on things. Having said that, the number of opportunities that exist for girls are still lesser. If I compare even some of the world surveys, where in the 50 or the five, so not 50, 500 fortune world fortune companies, you'll find hardly 10 odd women who are CEOs. So the number of women who are on the top of the league, or even in politics, are far and fewer. And it doesn't go to say that their talent is any less. They're equal. They're given equal opportunities as they're growing up. But I think it's for them to realize their potential and go further ahead and mark and make that space for themselves. So it's important that we give these girls, young girls, a voice, while they are disciplined, while they are respectful in their questioning and their discussions, but yet have a strong sense of voice, have a strong sense of articulation. How do they present what they want to do? And that's something that, and then fight for it and strive to get that done, is very important. And it has to be with reasoning, with logic. And that's what I believe in, and that's what I feel, that all girls need to have a stronger logic and reasoning aspects, so that they can go and get what they are wanting to get and not give up easily. I see a lot of young women, young girls, who especially when they are teenagers, they get into this whole thing of self doubt, not sure about themselves, are they good enough? And that's something that, as a school, especially the emotional mental well-being, we work towards, to say that how do we empower them and make them believe that they can do this, and they can do not just this but beyond that. So that is something that we continue to work towards with our girls. And I'm sure with time, have more and more girls, not just from my school but anywhere across the world. We'll have more and more girls like yourself, Namya, who are doing so well in STEM. And I remember the first time I met you, you were probably in grade 8 when you started your journey with Microsoft and as
I
Minecraft
started like grade
educator.
4. I met you when I was in grade 10.
No, you met me in grade 10 in person, but we met during COVID online session, when you did an online session for the students at Genesis Global
Oh,
School.
yeah. Yes,
You were
yes.
in
I
7th
believe,
or
yes.
8th.
8th. That I was in
You
8th.
were in 8th. That's what I remember. In person, we met when you were in 10th. So when I look at your journey and I look at you, how you've kind of pushed yourself, I'm sure you would have been faced with self doubt and am I good enough, can I do it? But there was something that was always driving you to push yourselves, and that's something which needs to be there in every girl. And that's when they're able to achieve things. I mean, look at your young age, and you're doing a podcast very confidently, 110th episode. It's great achievement, and heartiest congratulations on that to you. So yeah, go girl power is what you have to keep fighting on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, ma'am. And that's what we call about girls in STEM. And you've talked about the rigorous environment of a boarding school taught you not only the value of discipline, but also the deep sense of belonging that the setting can foster. And it's about, the highly structured and competitive environment that fulfills a fierce drive to excel and heightened adversity quotient, like you said, which people usually decline when we're just thinking about the IQ and EQ. And these formative experiences have strongly influenced your leadership approach, especially in your current role at a leading girls' school, where you want to talk about the importance of nurturing their confidence, their voice, agency, and recognizing that a day school, of course, can sometimes lack the immersive continuity of a boarding setup, but that can be bridged with the by embedding strong values, consistency, and of course ensuring that students are empowered every single day, and they're able to make the best use of their abilities, and they're able to recognize what skills they have and apply that to the best. And of course, when it comes to empowering girls in STEM, there might be opportunities, but what lacks is motivation. That's the reason why I also have always been on this journey, and I believe that if we're able to empower more girls to come forward, they have the skill set. They just need that, yes, one spark that go ahead and you can do it. So I really resonate to your thoughts. Thank you for sharing.
That's true.
Right. Yep. So, speaking of agency and confidence, let's talk about how we nurture those through the way we teach. So, in your experience, what are some misconceptions that educators often have when moving towards inquiry driven or interdisciplinary learning? And how do you help the team shift from rigid curriculum thinking to embracing curiosity and connections?
That's a very good question and very close to my heart because I've always struggled with this in terms of explaining it to teachers. And then once you've explained it to the teachers, to parents as well, often the biggest misconception is that inquiry based curriculum or inquiry driven learning is very unstructured, and that you can just let them do what they want to do, which is not true, which is absolutely different. Same goes for transdisciplinary learning also, or interdisciplinary learning. It doesn't, the biggest misconception is that it dilutes subjects. Oh, then if you're doing this, or sometimes it becomes so thematic that you're learning a concept in let's say English, and you're reading a story on apples and whatever, and then you start doing mathematical sums on so many apples. It becomes more thematic. The true nature of inquiry based learning has different stages. It is not just unstructured. It has, so there are different forms of inquiry. This one form is structured inquiry, where the teacher presents a lot of thinking questions, and where students present their questions and their thoughts, and then the inquiry starts, and it's a more structured manner. The teacher is in control of that inquiry, yet students are inquiring into different aspects. The other biggest, one big misconception I forgot to mention is that people think that inquiry based learning is only through computers. Well, that's one of the ways. Internet or the e-resources are just one of the ways. So inquiry happens through various resources, and I'll come to that later. So inquiry based learning in true sense can be structured, can be partly structured and partly driven by students. And then the third stage, where the students are so competent and can do it more themselves, can be more unstructured. Again, the teacher will still give them guiding questions, the teacher will still give them some lines of inquiry to follow and to kind of make their journey forward, and will keep checking on with them. Inquiry doesn't mean that you've given a task to the students and they do it and then the teacher sits with their arms folded. No, inquiry is a more challenging task, because when you are engaged with students at every stage, you have to ask the right questions to direct and channelize their thought process. So inquiry is tedious, it takes time, it takes a lot of time, not little time. It's easy to open a textbook and read out that chapter and do the 20 questions at the back. This is my most favorite example I give all parents when they come and ask, what is inquiry based learning? It is extremely challenging to get them to to inspire them and to provoke their thinking to a topic that you want to explore through different provocations or through different key ideas, and dropping those things in front of them and then getting them to think beyond and think deeper. So that's part of the inquiry. When you do research, and like I said, people, the biggest misconception and another one on inquiry is that it can be just you need laptops, you need iPads, and that's inquiry. No, that's not true. So how do we find out things? There are two kinds of resources, any individual. So I will ask you a question back, that if you were lost in a jungle, what would be your primary resource, and you didn't have any gadgets?
If I didn't have any gadgets,
Yeah. And you're in
um,
a jungle, you're in Himachal right
I
now, you're
tried
in a
to.
tent.
Oh, then I try to look for any, person around, or if there are any, like, roads, if I could, walk and get
So
to
what's
one
your
of them.
primary source of finding out? What's your primary source then?
Another
Person.
person? Yes.
People, right? So your
Yep.
primary source of looking for things, your primary source of gathering information is person. When an individual is born, the first introduction into inquiry, or the first questions are answered by people. When we don't know how to read, we don't know how to write, right? We don't know how to speak also, but our queries are answered by people. So people are your primary resource. Then second, you would try to look for directions, that I came from here, this is how it was. You might, if it's night, you'll look at the sky. So it's places. So your primary resources are people and places, and not the internet, not the computer, not your books. Those are secondary resources. So again, with inquiry based learning, what is happening is that we keep them bound. I hope I've been able to kind of make my point, that you bound them not in
Yeah,
the
I really
classroom.
like that
You got to
example.
take them. You have to take them outside the classroom. You have to let them explore the world. That's when true inquiry happens. So when they're very young, they touch and feel and they explore. When they're a little older, they'll go to people, they'll ask questions, like you're doing. You're doing this podcast, you're just trying to gather some more information. So you could have read about these things, but you wanted a personal experience, you wanted an insight, and that remains lifelong with you. So that's where inquiry differs from just how people envision it towards, versus how I look at inquiry, or how educators, a lot of educators like me, look at inquiry. That it's immersive, it's lifelong. When you learn through inquiry, it has to do with people. You have to interact with people, you have to meet people, you go to places, and that's when you learn a lot of things. And then you back that learning with a lot of text. Can be through the internet, through your books, wherever you gather. You can watch more videos on it, you could watch documentaries on that curiosity that you have. But there will be stages that will come into it. So inquiry is never unstructured. It will come to a stage when it will get a little unstructured, but that too will have a structure to it. The teacher will always have guiding questions for you in an unstructured inquiry. So that's where the difference lies. And I
Yep.
think this is a shift that educators need to have, that learning is not only in the classrooms. It happens, like I said right in the beginning, it happens everywhere. Every part of the school, every part of your home is a learning ground for students, for young children.
True that, and really liked your example that the way you put it. And of course, you said one of the biggest myths is that approaches of teaching are inherently unstructured or chaotic, which is the biggest myth. And in reality, effective inquiry learning unfolds in, like you said, different stages which are carefully designed, ranging from structured to semi-structured and even unstructured inquiry, where each is serving a very different purpose in developing the students' thinking skills. And of course, you also mentioned about how people assume that inquiry based learning is synonymous with using technology or computers. While digital tools can certainly support the process, they are just one of the many avenues, rightly said by you. True inquiry begins with people and places, where you've emphasized the importance of stepping out the classroom walls, encouraging educators and students to connect with the real world contexts and environments. So that would help, the teams move away from rigid curriculums and, of course, channelize and guiding the channel students towards curiosity and connecting up the concepts across disciplines, nurturing a culture where questions are just as valuable as the answers. I really liked the way you put this answer out. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Yeah. So, and one area where we seeing more curiosity and also hesitation is technology. So, you've been a vocal advocate for integrating technology meaningfully in the schools. So, how do you see technology transforming students' lives at Mayo today? And how do you believe that girls can harness tech not just as users, but as creators, learners, and leaders?
Thank you for that last bit. I just loved what you said because that's something I keep saying it, and I feel I've not said it enough, and I need to say it more and more. Is that the unfortunate thing of education is that we're creating too many consumers of technology, but not focusing on creators. So the need for technology immersement of technology into schools is that don't just create consumers, but create creators and create leaders and create those policy and change makers for technology. It's very, very important, and I absolutely uh, reflect and I absolutely kind of reciprocate what you've just said, because it is so important that in a school where you are driven by a lot of curricular aspects, a lot of co-curricular aspects too, and then there is the integration of technology into the learning. What we sometimes fail to do is we look at technology as a subject, while technology is not a subject, it's a tool, and it is replacing a lot of other learning tools like your pens and pencils and notebooks. So technology has to be understood from that perspective, that you are learning technology as part of your everyday thing, and it's everywhere. And where is if gone past, in the long, long past days, you would have met me in person and done this interaction, and today we're doing it through technology. I've been reading up a lot about it, and I still feel I don't understand enough about AI and the different aspects of AI and the difference between AI and machine learning and how does that happen. I've been trying to read and educate myself more and more, because that's where the future is. What you look at the jobs currently, probably in a couple of years, by 2030, another 10, less than 10, 5 years, 7 years, 65% jobs will be new, different jobs which we don't know of. So we are always and forever training as teachers, we are training students for jobs which we don't know will exist. So it's very important to train them onto the skills that they are learning. And technology is one of the life skills. It's becoming a life skill that everybody needs to be equipped with it. Again, not as a consumer, but from the other aspect, to understand the real sense with technology. At MCGS, at our school in Mayo College Girls School, we have a lot of technology integration into the subjects in different areas. What we've done very recently is that we've brought in an AI and robotics lab, and we are equipping that with more and more equipment and more latest technologies to see how the girls can immerse into it in a better manner, and again, not introduce it at the age of ninth grade, 8th grade, or 10th grade, but start at grade 4. What you said, you started your journey when you were in grade 4. That's the age that you, I mean, to me it's even younger, but we start with grade 4, so that's our benchmark grade, the youngest one. But in some of my previous schools, we had actually coding and all those aspects being taught in grades 1 and 2. That coding was introduced at that young age, so that they just understood the aspect of how a pathway is made, how things are done in a logical manner, just that aspect of learning, and then move from there to a little more hardcore coding when they were in third, fourth grades. So that's one of our big initiative in not initiatives, but one of the drives at Mayo College Girls School. This year is dedicated to kind of enhancing the technology and the use of technology, and then the immersing and the creation, what we do with using technology is our focus here for us. So two big focus years for MCGS would be, one from the aspect of technology, and to counter that, when students spend so much time just exploring the aspects of technology, which is very abstract, it's not very concrete, it's an abstract world when you're only dealing with numbers and digits and whatever. So to counter that, the other big part for us is emotional mental well-being. So these are two big areas we're focusing on this year, to see how we take them forward and enhance our students. Because when you are immersing a lot more into technology, and I don't know, that's a question for you, what do you do? How do you offset that aspect and come back to the real world, being in a virtual world and creating things always? And then how do you
Yep.
offset that? You do need a lot of mindfulness, you do need a lot of calming down and come back to the real world. I guess that's why you're roaming around in Himachal and having a great
Yeah.
time but and connecting with nature. But yeah, that's these are the two big goals for us, to make sure that technology is for everybody, and not just as consumers but as creators.
True, absolutely. And like whenever I am feeling like that I want to take a digital detox, it's either, traveling or if I cannot, book reading. Like I've always been an avid book reader and I bought three books along with me right now. I'm like, if I finish, I'll have to buy more, or maybe if it's available. But yeah, I totally agree with your thoughts, to shift the narrative around technology in schools from mere consumption to purposeful creation and innovation. You've pointed out that while many students today are adept tech users, the real transformation lies in empowering them to become the creators, policy influencers, and change makers. And at Mayo, you've envisioned technology not just as a standalone subject, but as an integral tool that supports both curricular and co curricular learning. And it's not just about teaching tech in isolation, but embedding it seamlessly into everyday education experiences. That basically is going to help students become more fluent in digital literacy, problem solving, innovation, basically 21st century skills. And you've also stressed on the urgency of this shift, citing that nearly 65% of the jobs students will take up in the next decade do not exist today. So the future demands the workforce which has better skills like adaptability, collaboration, creativity, critical thinking, and of course, technology. So by consistently encouraging your students, especially girls, to explore and understand the emerging technologies, you've ensured that they are not just users of these tools, but also leaders who will shape the future. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's true. And just adding to the skills that you mentioned, one skill which is very important, and I've talked before about being able to survive well in an adverse environment, adversity quotient, is perseverance. So a lot of people, it's a very underrated skill, people don't talk about it, but I think to be able to do everything, critical thinking, and to be able to be a more adaptable person and everything, you need a lot of perseverance, and that just gets linked as the bottom line for me. You keep pushing yourself hard and keep getting up every time you fall.
Absolutely. True. Ikigai, your reason to wake up every day. True.
Yeah.
Amazing. So I have a fun question to ask you. So what does your morning routine look like?
Oh, very difficult question, but yes. So I used to, and this is something that I've started doing more now recently. I would wake up, and the first thing my hand would go on my phone, because that's where the alarm is, and you turn it off. And when you turn off your phone's alarm, you look at your phone, and then you look at, okay, what messages. So I've just started doing that. I turn off my phone and I get out of the bed. I don't turn around and look at my phone for the next 45 minutes, at least to an hour, and then finish all my chores and everything. Have a nice cup of tea made and sit outside, and that's when I pick up my phone. Again, if there are urgent messages, I try myself not to respond to them. But yeah, of course, when you have a child who lives across the other part of the world, you have to be responding to messages as well. But that's something that I've really changed for myself, is to change my morning routine a little, go for a walk, do all those things, not carry my phone around too often, and just leave it back at home, leave it in the room that it is. I'm trying to digitally detox, but I know once the school reopens, that becomes difficult because a lot of messages come on phones. Again, trying to reduce the usage of WhatsApp, so that they can be less messaging on the phone but more direct, walking in, talking to people. Yeah, but we're living in a very difficult and a different world today. It's becoming day in, day out, it's becoming very, very challenging. Yeah, that's how it starts, my morning routine.
True, that's a really nice routine. For me, it's like when I wake up, I do the similar thing, turn off the alarm, but I don't like to check the phone either. Like, because my internet is anyway off, I turn it on after I'm done doing my like work, after meditating, exercising. Since I don't go to school anymore, my college is going to start in mid-August, so I'm just having some good time to meditate more, have more time to read in the morning, and of course then start the day on a happy note. And I think we agree on the same part of having less usage of the phone. The only time I use it a lot is when I'm probably doing Duolingo, learning Finnish. So that's when I use it a lot, but otherwise it's not used that much by me either.
Oh, that's good. That reminds me, where are you going to college in mid-August?
Finland.
Oh, wonderful. That's why you're learning Finnish.
Yes. Yep, and that's
That's
why I
really
also have the word terve, which means hello and hi in Finnish in the introduction. So terve means
right,
hi.
right.
Yep.
Lovely.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that, Miss Neeti. And moving on to my next question for you. So, you've led change in multiple schools, from academic innovation to aligning the national frameworks like the National Education Policy. So, when initiating transformational change, what's the first step or mindset you believe lays the groundwork for long term success?
Um, so change is difficult, change is challenging, change is resisted. I'll start by that, but change is also inevitable. Change is the only way that we move forward in life. So these are the things that I always share with my staff, with teachers. What is very important is to kind of um, understand the value behind that change, and have the team subscribe to that thought. And the team, when I say team, is the team of senior leaders and teachers. They all agree with that and align with it. Only then can a change happen. Now change, I brought in IB education in two three of my schools, and the first one I was a learner, but the second and the third schools I kind of worked and changed the system, how they were learning, and brought in the IB primary years and middle years program. And one thing I saw was there was, of course, a lot of resistance. There was a lot of difficulty and a lot of challenge for the staff members. But the moment they started believing in that idea, the whole idea of inquiry-based learning, the whole idea of student-centric learning, uh, they kind of started slowly aligning with growth mindset from fixed mindset. You know that in a fixed mindset it just happens, this is how it happens, this is how it has happened, we've always done it like that, to oh wow, this is how it can happen, and wow, this is where we can make a change, and this was my success story of my class. And again, when people are trying to put that effort to change, you have to celebrate their little success stories, and you have to encourage people and you have to push them forward. It's very difficult at after somebody being in a career of teaching for 30 years or 25 years or 20 years, and you come and say that this is not how you should be teaching. You should be teaching using inquiry based learning. How about combining subjects and making it more transdisciplinary? So it's a very new idea for a lot of them. And then again, moving and transforming not just the mindset of the staff, that's the first step, but also to the students love it, they grab it like they've always wanted it, because when a child is born, they are uh, they are inquirers, they're full of curiosity. And this is very beautifully expressed by in one of the TED talks that I was listening to, that schools and as adults we kill that curiosity. And that's something that has stuck with me forever, that don't kill the curiosity in the child, let them have that exploration area. And so as adults we have to change ourselves in how we see things. We have to get challenged by students. I love being challenged. When I throw an idea and when my students challenge me on that idea, I see an opportunity of discussion. I see an opportunity of debate. I see an opportunity of them deep diving and going deeper into that discussion, irrespective of who finally wins that challenge and That doesn't matter to me. What is more important is the journey that they take on. So yeah, change is the most difficult thing, but we all have to live with it, and we have to slowly and steadily change with every passing day. That's true.
Absolutely. Like you rightly said, change is inevitable. And when we approach it with the right mindset, it's incredibly rewarding too. You believe that the first step is initiating in a meaningful long-term change is fostering a deep understanding of its value, both for oneself and also for the broader community around you. And you said about how your journey began with embracing the role of a learner first, while embracing the IB education, and that's what the exposure led you to stepping into the role of a change maker. And the learner first attitude helped you not only to navigate the new systems, but also model the new adaptability that you wish to see in other people as well. I really like the way you talked about the approach shifting in the staff members and the teachers around you from a fixed mindset to a growth oriented one, ensuring that they feel supported and celebrated in every single milestone of theirs, no matter how big and small. And of course, the philosophy extends to students as well, where you've strongly advocated about nurturing a mindset of inquiry, where questions are encouraged and curiosity is protected and not killed. And of course, for the lasting transformation, it always has to begin when every member of the school, teacher, students, they feel empowered, seen, and inspired to keep on going. Yep.
That's true. And I forgot very one more important stakeholders or members of that whole community are the parents. They have to align with you as well. So it's not just the teachers and the students, but also the parents. So all stakeholders believe in the same vision, they believe in the same path, and that's when change starts becoming more and more visible. Yeah, it's a journey.
Yep.
Change is a journey.
True. The ripple reaction keeps on, continuing. Absolutely. Right. So thank you so much, Miss Neeti, for this truly enriching conversation. Your journey, your clarity, and your deep love for student growth has left me, and I'm sure our listeners, completely inspired. So before we end today's podcast, what message would you want them to hold close to their heart?
I'll say the message at the end, but I do want to say one thing, that I've seen your incredible journey, and I'm always enamored by and in awe of how you've taken yourself, and a lot of people have been instrumental in that journey. Of course, it was your perseverance and drive, but your parents, your school, your principal, everybody, your teachers, they've all been supportive of that journey and how they've taken it. And for me, it's been an absolute pleasure to be on your podcast. I know it's taken a very long time. We kept planning and planning again and again, and finally we've been able to come and be here together today. Uh, you know, the message that I want to leave people is that there are two parts of my message. One is to to all the schools, all the educators who've spent eons and eons of years in education and are there and they are stalwarts. But I very strongly feel about this, that what matters is not what you are defending as an educator or as an individual, but what really matters is that what are you designing and leaving as a legacy for the institution, for the students, for the generations to come. So it's important to defend the right things, the discipline aspect and all that, but it's also important to design a better curriculum which aligns with the students of today. How I learned, how I grew up learning, how I became a teacher and was trained to be a teacher was very different from how students today learn, because the kind of opportunities they have are very different. So it's very important that every question that you are asking yourself should be towards a new finding, towards a new learning. Those are the questions that you need to be deep diving into. And that every challenge that you are faced with should teach you a life's lesson, will teach you, in fact. That every challenge that you're, and that life's lesson will lead to an opportunity for you to grow and become a better individual. So don't shy away from the challenges. Continue to ask questions and keep getting challenged and keep challenging. That's the last message.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. And of course, listening to you has reminded me that true education begins when we dare to stay curious, lead with purpose, and grow together as learners, creators, and change makers. Thank you so much, ma'am, for being on the podcast. It was a great opportunity and pleasure to have you on board today. And I hope everybody, has enjoyed and has been inspired with your commendable thoughts.
Thank you, Namya, for having me over. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And thank you everyone for joining and listening to this episode. I'll see you in the next one. Till then, each one, teach 10. Have a nice day.